Hi, I'm Mario Guerra, the two-time former mayor of the great city of Downey, and I'm here with my co-host, Eric Pierce, the editor of the Downey Patriot. And you're watching Talking Downey with Mario
and Eric.
Hey, big guy, how are you?
Good. We have a special guest.
We do have a special guest on there. Hi, Dorothy.
Hello, good
How
morning.
are you? Good morning.
Good,
I like
good.
when people visit us.
Yes. It's kind of like Mr. Robinson's, not Mr. Robinson's, Mr.
Rogers?
Rogers.
Mr. Robinson.
We'll probably edit that out, hopefully. No, but anyways, you're welcome. It's great to see you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, as you know, as we've talked about, we have a series that we're interviewing all the candidates for the two special city council races. Dorothy is running for the District 3, which is where?
District 3 is west of Downey Avenue, and then from Telegraph south to Firestone, and then a little portion behind LA Fitness there by Stewart and Gray and Old River School Road.
So
it's a big
basically
area.
northwest
Northwest.
Downey. And that seat is vacant because of the recall of Catherine Alvarez, which I will start with some of the questions on there. You know, you led the recall of Catherine Alvarez. Is that one of the reasons? Why are you running overall?
Well, I feel we haven't had representation for the past 3 years. Former Rick Rodriguez did an excellent job. He was always in the community. And so after the recall and there's no representation, a person cannot be appointed per our charter. So that's why the election has to happen in November. And I felt talking to all these residents, reaching out to them, my experience in the community, I felt even more connected. And I'm honest and transparent. I just felt this would be an opportunity for me to represent them.
Dorothy, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a Downey gal. I've been raised in Downey. I attended all the Downey schools. I'm a Viking, but my girls are Bears, so we have a mixed family. I've been in every organization. I got started in volunteering with Joyce Lawrence. She lived on our street. I was raised behind Stocks in that area. And then like I said, I started working in the community. I worked for a local builder. When I got married, then we had 2 girls, 2 children, Whitney and Shelby. Then you start as a parent getting involved in the children's activities, the schools, the sports groups, and that just kind of springboarded me into where I am today.
Yeah,
That's one thing about you. You when you get involved in a group, you grab on and hold on. I remember being on the council, and you were leading the charge for improved snack shacks at
Downey Ponytail, right?
Downey Ponytail. And then Eric, you and I served on the YMCA board. So we're very transparent here in Downey that we do know Dorothy for a long time, and you can't help it in our community if you've been involved in any community groups because the people like yourself, they're like us. Eric and I were on the YMCA board when you were the chair of the YMCA board. So we've had the opportunity to know.
Can I touch quickly on Downey Ponytail? For me, that's one of my, well, it's always a group effort, but one of my biggest passions to see that we did get a snack shack. We would do snack shack duty from a trailer in the back, and the wheel would fall off the barbecue. And because I had some knowledge of building, I undertook that. I was the construction chair over at the city planning there, got it out of plan check for so many years. And basically we built the snack shack. I was coordinating that, and it stands today. It was really a great effort.
I was proud to be on the city council to vote for some funds for that. So, so Dorothy, what types of improvements or things you'd like to see in your district on there in District 3? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the streets were needing to be repaved, but since we had that initiative that allowed us to pave the streets sooner, that's getting done. We have also the concern about speeding in our area. There was at City Council, they tried to slow down the speed limit on Firestone Boulevard in the middle of the night where they're doing donuts. There's also a concern that people see along with street vendors that don't have the necessary permits to be there. Of course, there's crime and things of that nature are happening. It might require us hiring more police officers to address that. They also like to have more things that are enhancing the community, like I mentioned, maybe a community garden where we can come out as a group and get to know our neighbors more, having more neighborhood watch groups. That always connects people. there's just a litany of things that I can see that we can do.
Yeah.
And
Right.
empty buildings, trying to get building community development to get good businesses in there. Stonewood Mall is, one of those. Not my district, but we need to address that.
One of the major issues, not just in Downey, but within the region, is homelessness. Do you have any thoughts on how you would combat homelessness in Downey if you're elected?
I think cities are realizing that each city has to take a part of this situation in finding resources, which we do have. Our Downey Police does have resource officers that go out to give them resources in the sense of help or housing, but we may have to have some type of housing here in Downey and look at it, because I know even the city the city mayor rather, was addressing that as well. Get them off the streets and into some type of temporary housing, then eventually permanent housing. We're going to address that, and I'm going to work with the police department to see what resources we do have, outreach programs or substance abuse, things like that.
So, Dorothy, more specific in your district, on there, your opponent is advocating for lights at Furman Park, where the baseball fields are in the back there, which are, city-owned fields and so forth. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, being a 20-year alumni of Downey Ponytail Softball, we had that situation as well. I understand that when daylight savings time changes in the fall, when we used to have fall ball, you can't have a game at 5 o'clock, and you want to have all the kids play, not just on Saturday. I think that the residents' opinions also need to be taken in, because they, in a sense, are landlocked. And I know playing on a field, it starts at 7 a.m. and it doesn't end until 10 p.m. They are also entitled to their quiet enjoyment. If you go on Wileyburg, the parking is just a mess. It's tough. It's tight. If you had a party there, you would never be able to have anything on the weekend. But at the same time, I know that the kids want to play. Maybe we have an alternative park. Maybe something on the grounds of Rancho could be built when they develop that. But maybe we can work together. Maybe it's a factor in that the lights are only on for 1 or 2 hours for a game. At Downey Independence Park, we wanted lights 20 years ago. And the neighbors were surveyed. The neighbors need to be surveyed first, because it's a buy-in for everybody. They are the stakeholders. So try to work together to see how it can work, if it can.
Good, thank you.
Dorothy, would you ever support marijuana dispensaries in Downey?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay.
Because I know it is legal, but it's the element that comes to the stores. And we had someone in my office open one up in an area where they had a lot of them. He closed it 6 months later between the robberies, the crime around it, the cameras. He said it wasn't worth it. And this gave me already an insight to it, let alone how the police tell us that we don't need another area to patrol.
Yeah. Okay.
We certainly don't need the revenue. There's other ways to get that.
Dorothy, you mentioned some things about your background, and maybe you want to tell us some of the groups you've been involved with for a long time. And also, then, what makes you the best candidate?
One of my first groups that I joined was Seroptimist International of Downey, and we are, in a sense, an arm of Rotary. They were started back in the 20s. We do a lot of community projects. We've made a lot of long-term friendships for women and children. Children's Hospital Los Angeles was another group. We also are involved, as you mentioned, with the Downey YMCA. I enjoy working with that group. We've gone to camps. You'll see that in my website, but I just feel that having the pulse of Downey is very important. Experience does count in any job, in anywhere. This is not an entry-level position, in my opinion. And knowing the past, being current with the present, allows me to make good decisions for the future. That's what I feel.
No, you've been involved with the schools, too. You've been a substitute teacher for how many years?
Well, a substitute teacher for, I guess, about 15 years or so. I went back to school as an adult to get my bachelor's degree, then a master's, and then a teaching credential. But I couldn't work full-time because I was taking care of my parents. They were older. They have since passed. And so I prioritized my family life also with my kids. And now I'm at a point where I can do that. I know I was asked to run decades ago, but I said, no, it's just not the right time.
Dorothy, being here in Downey, one issue is housing affordability. would you support, or what are your thoughts on on building more dense housing in Downey?
Well, excuse me. Density parking right now is an issue. The more dense housing we have, then we have parking situation. Being on the Public Works Committee, we have a situation by the Downey Landing where the residents are not able to park, and now we're having permit parking. Where do the tenants park as well? So we're trying to see if we can get a reciprocal agreement with the Downey Landing. That's private land. So the denser the housing, the more traffic we're going to have, and that's not what people want around here. I mean, we should be responding to the needs and wants of our residents. So it's not necessarily my decision, but it's what they're encountering. And density in housing is not something that is perhaps best for Downey right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, full disclaimer here, and I hadn't even thought of this until you started talking about the housing. So when the city of Downey, the residents passed Measure S to improve our police department, our roads, our parks, and so forth, I was blessed to be asked to serve on that committee, and so were you. It was former Mayor Gaffin, Dave Gaffin, rest his soul, myself, yourself, Carrie Uva, and I think Don LaPlante were the 5 original ones. So we approved how the city was spending the money into the parks and the roads and so forth. So I know that we served on that a long time. That's not a disclaimer one way or the other. I just want everybody to know because I didn't think about it till halfway through this interview. So Dorothy, what the other issue that other cities around have been talking about is rent control. What are your thoughts on rent control?
Well, as everyone knows, we currently have a moratorium of 5% state rent control plus small percentages for CPI index, that type of thing. But what tenants don't realize are the costs that are borne by the landlord. And if they are unable to improve the property that they're renting, they won't. And so right now we have pristine properties. We have good looking rentals compared to some other cities. And that's because the landlords, the owners, the building management companies, they're able to make those improvements that tenants want to see. But if you start to put a cap on everything, what's the first thing that's going to stop? It's going to be the living conditions or improvements or painting. We want to keep Downey looking the way it is, and people want to come live here for a reason because it's clean, it's safe, and it helps with the property values. So I wouldn't. I say we are fine where we are with the state cap.
Okay. Good.
Absolutely. Okay. Dorothy, we're wrapping up. Oh. Do you want to any final messages to voters, or actually, did you already ask what makes you the best candidate?
I think what makes me the best candidate is that I'm a doer and not just a talker. I have done projects, have done things in the city that people can look at and see done. Like I mentioned, the Snack Shack. I helped build the first Habitat for Humanity house. So I'd like to get involved. And once I get my teeth in something, I don't finish. I was walking and knocking on a door of a friend. I didn't realize they knew me from across from Griffiths. And this man had such a concern. It was so small about a tree that was covered and encased in concrete. And so I'll help you. I said, I'll get that taken care of. So I went across. I'll make it quick, but it got fixed. And I know somebody I posted a video on my social media and they said, oh, lady, that's one tree. What are you going to do for the city? It's not one tree. It's one person's voice. And to me, I like to respond to that. Same thing with fixing something that somebody posted on social media. So I'm a fixer. I'm a doer. I just love this town, and I want to keep what we have and make it go forward. So.
Good. Well, and you mentioned your website is for the viewers to know.
My website is right here. It's Dorothy Pemberton. I know my mind right now. Dorothy Pemberton for Downey. And I also have a Facebook page as well.
Okay, great. Good.
Thank you for coming on here.
Yeah.
The reason we're filming these is we want the voters to make informed decisions. No matter who you vote for, just make an informed decision. So we appreciate you coming out here. Not every candidate accepted our invitation, so you're taking time out of your day because you see the importance of it. And I appreciate it. And I know our viewers, our listeners appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, and this is a special election. So believe it or not, if you're in District 3, there's only going to be one thing on the ballot. You're going to get a ballot in the next 3 weeks. And there's only one thing on there, and it's just to vote for one of the 3 folks running in District 3. So it's important for you to get out and get your message out and so forth. So thank you, Dorothy, for coming, as Eric said. And folks, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching Talking Downey with Mario
And Eric.